Mark, let me just bring Tariq Sami, who's a Muslim. He lives in Worcester, into the conversation. Do stay with us. Tariq, morning. Thanks for being part of the programme this morning. You're listening to that clip of Chris Ryan, the former SAS soldier and now a best-selling author, what he was saying about the importance of the Muslim community coming forward. What would you say to that?
Well, I would agree with that aspect, certainly. And there seem to be, to me, three different aspects of the Muslim community coming forward. One itself is public condemnation. Two is an internal review of what Muslim communities actually believe, what their adherents believe, and mosques up and down the country should be reviewing what their worshippers who come to the mosque actually believe. And the third aspect is coordination with police and civic authorities, flagging up individuals who may be radicalized, who may be talking in terrorist terms, who may be talking about going to Syria or any of these places.
You're hearing what Mark Garney was saying just a few moments ago, that his preferred option would be the non-combative reaction to this, although there's this emerging debate. What do you think would happen if it is upped, the game is upped, and it suddenly does become a military strike back against Islamic State jihadists? Well,
you see, the problem with Iraq and with Syria right now is that there's so many different sects and communitarian perspectives that if you throw a match into oil, you're likely to get a very strong reaction that you can't control. So any discussion of military intervention needs to be very, very carefully thought through, which is, I think, what Mark was really getting at. And we, Britain as a whole, need to understand what interventions we are doing and what the expected result would be. So that's a very delicate and precise discussion that Parliament needs to have.
What about, Mark Garney, the plans to strip UK citizenship from jihadists fighting in Syria and Iraq to stop them coming back here?
Well, these are not well thought through plans because, in fact, the legal situation is you just cannot go around stripping people of their state. You know, there is a responsibility by a state, to protect their citizens, which obviously in the case of terrorists, we kind of feel reluctant to do that. And I understand the sentiment behind this. But if you were to reverse this thing and let's say a Syrian terrorist came to London and perpetrated a crime, and the Syrians then said, oh, well, look, actually, we're going to take his state away from him. We're going to leave him with you. It's your problem. There will be outrage in this country. And it's this, if you like, reciprocality that I think people don't quite get, which is that you can't just simply make somebody stateless because it suits you, because what you're essentially doing then is dumping that problem onto somebody else, and that other state then has to deal with your problem because you are walking away from it. And I think it's incredibly important that when we, have these jihadists, if they do return to England, if jihadist John, this chap who's in the video, comes back, we should absolutely arrest him. We should try him under British rule, and we should punish him under British rule. There will be anger that there will be a cost to the British taxpayer to put him in prison. But the right thing to do is for us to make sure that our laws are absolutely there both to protect British citizens, but also to bring them to justice when they perpetrate these appalling crimes.
It feels like we're standing on the edge of something here. I mean, I'll put this to you both. I mean, one hopes we learn lessons from history, and we've got some very recent history, of course, in Iraq. What do we need to learn from this, Mark?
Well, that actually we don't know enough about history. I mean, the appalling thing is I referred a bit earlier back to the debate we had a year ago when we knew that there was the beginnings of something happening. We knew that there was, if early intervention was going to be able to provide great humanitarian relief in Syria and then potentially Iraq. We didn't know how it was going to develop into Iraq. But the point is we kind of thought we'd learned from history and looked back to the Second Gulf War. In fact, actually, we hadn't learned from history. We just got nervous collectively in Parliament, and I think we got it completely wrong. As I say, it's too late now to change that. But there's an awful lot of horror going on in the world. We're talking about Islamic State at the moment. We've also got the Ukraine. We've also got this. Even domestically, we have to cast an eye to what's been going on in Rotherham, and I think many of us are absolutely staggered at what we're seeing coming out of Rotherham. So this is, one part of what is a pretty unpleasant world at the moment, and we have got to do something about it.
And Tariq, briefly, a lesson from history?
Well, there are certainly things that we can learn from in history. But going forward, from my perspective, the Muslim community, Mark just mentioned Rotherham as well, needs to start engaging going forward with the British civil authorities in a positive and productive manner. And what I would like to do is I would like to assure Mark that there are Muslim communities, such as my community, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, that are very, very willing to take on British values, that do have British values, work with civil authorities, and condemn the atrocities that are happening both with the purported beheading of Stephen and with what happened in Rotherham.
Gentlemen, both thank you. Tariq Sami is a Muslim who lives in Worcester. Mark Garnier is the Conservative MP for the Wyre Forest with their considered views this morning.